Welcome to the audience. Welcome to our panelists, some of whom I have not yet met. Hello, panelists. Thank you to Nicholas. Thank you to the United Nations for hosting. When Sesame Street first began a half century ago, hard to believe that, and I was there for over 40 years, Nicholas, not 30, the one-way medium of television was considered to be at worst a medium of violence, aggression, and sexuality, and at best, a vast mind-numbing wasteland. Yet Sesame Street's founders, producers, and researchers saw the opportunity to use the television medium as a means of education, to use the television screen as a window to the world at large for children. In many ways, Sesame Street's experience helped show that using quality content matters, and that television and all media, even two-way interactive media like the internet, are inherently neutral. Media and today's platforms can be used for good or for bad. Our panel has 5 very accomplished individuals, each working in his or her own global reaching domain, very much focused on the effects of technology on children and their parents and society in general. Our charge to them today is how do we live up to the promise of a connective, inclusive, empowering internet and ensure that the world's greatest resource, our children, thrive in a digital world. To begin, before I invite them up one by one, I'll introduce them, I offer them and you a preemptive apology. As your moderator, I must take the prerogative of the chair to shorten your responses because each one of you can speak for 45 minutes because you know so much. And I will ask you to be brief in your remarks to the questions, listen to each other, build on or challenge what your colleagues say, and I'd like to get through 3 sets of questions, one on risks, one on opportunities, one on values, and then leave some time for our audience to ask you some questions. So let's begin by bringing up Cornelius Williams, who has already been introduced as the Associate Director and Global Chief of Child Protection at Unicef. Cornelius. Jacqueline Boucher, who is the Chief Safety Officer at Microsoft, the Chief Online Officer, where she's responsible for all aspects of Microsoft's online safety strategy, and she currently serves as the Vice Chair for the National Cybersecurity Alliance Board of Directors. Karen Davis, who is the Senior Vice President of Global Philanthropy and Social Impact at Hasbro. Hi, Karen, haven't seen you in a couple of years. Nice to see you. She's responsible for the global philanthropic programs at Hasbro, and she is currently spearheading the company's philanthropic initiative called Be Fearless, Be Kind, an effort to develop compassion and empathy in youth. Neil Jacoby, nice to meet you, Neil, who is the Associate Vice President for Public Affairs at AT&T and heads the National Foundation and Citizen Initiatives of the organization. He also creates and pilots AT&T's campaigns in New York City that apply mobile technologies for human, social, and community purpose. And he's also created AT&T's Connectability Global Innovation Contest to source mobile technologies serving people with disabilities. And last but not least, hi, Jennifer Hanley, who is the Safety Policy Manager at Facebook, where she handles safety policy for the US and Canada. And before joining Facebook recently, she served as the Vice President for Legal and Policy at the Family Online Safety Institute. So thank you to all of the panelists for joining. Let's turn to the promise and perils, opportunities, and risks of the internet for young children. We'll start with the risk and what can be done about them. There's been a great deal of discussion about the risks for young children in having access to the online world. Some of these risks are severe, such as the fear about inappropriate contacts with others. Some of them are less severe, like too much screen time, to exposure to inappropriate content, very familiar to us who started in the world of television. So my first question is, what one risk are you and your institution dealing with? How are you dealing with it? And how do you wish others might be dealing with other risks that perhaps are greatly challenging but you have not yet dealt with? I'm going to start with you, Cornelius.
Thank you very much. Let me frame my response within the 3 C's. The content risk, the contact risk, and the conduct risk. The content risk, where a child is exposed to unwelcome and inappropriate content that could include sexual, pornographic, violent images, etc., racist, discriminatory, hate speech. The contact risk, where a child participates in risky communication, such as with an adult seeking inappropriate content or soliciting a child for sexual purpose, or taking part in unhealthy and dangerous behavior. The conduct risk, where a child behaves in a way that contributes to risky content or contact. This may include children who are creating hateful materials about other children, inciting racism, or posting or distributing sexual image, including materials they've produced themselves. For this, I'd like to focus for UNICEF on the contact risk, right? We know that actually through social engineering skills and the access to large numbers of children online, a skilled groomer has been reported to groom a child in less than 45 minutes. This was something that used to take weeks or months to do, right? Now it can be done in 45 minutes. We would like to highlight actually that this is one of the most serious harm that children face through the internet, and it relates to sexual abuse and exploitation, the production, distribution, and consumption of sexual abuse material. How do we respond to this in UNICEF? We are part of the We Protect Global Alliance, which provides a platform. We feel this is a unique platform that brings together government, civil society, and the ICT industry. We believe actually that We Protect has a model national response that is a strategic and programmatic framework, and we're working in 21 countries. Where we would like to see others work more, it's in terms of the conduct risk, okay? How do we get children not to be engaged in risky content or contact, especially the materials that are provided, and the bullying that takes place in the internet space.
Thank you very much, Pastor Jacqueline.
Thank you, Louis, and thank you for having me here today. It's been an honor to be a part of No Bully for the past 2 years. We too at Microsoft organize via the 4 C's, not the 3 C's. So the 3 that Cornelius mentioned in addition to commerce. But I'd like to frame my response in terms of recent research that we've been doing for the past 3 years. We've been conducting research in more than 20 countries about what we call digital civility, which I'd like to think is an undergirding for the No Bully effort all up. And what that research has shown us for the past 3 years running is that unwanted contact is a significant risk for both children and adults across the world. Each of the 3 years that we've been conducting this research, unwanted contact has surfaced as the most significant risk. What we do at Microsoft is we're focused primarily on content risks. We moderate our services for unwanted, inappropriate, illegal content. And we also focus on conduct that people are exhibiting on our services. I would say that when Cornelius mentioned contact and conduct, I posit that they're 2 sides of the same coin. We look at contact in terms of the person being contact, the person that is on the receiving end of the bullying or harassing or stalking behaviors, whereas conduct is exhibited and looked at from the perpetrator's standpoint, the person who is exhibiting those bullying or stalking or harassing behaviors. We take a number of steps. We have a code of conduct on our services. It's about 10 different points. It's not necessarily a code of conduct. I describe it as a list of thou shall nots. So it's 10 things that you should not engage in when you're acting on our services. These are our hosted consumer services. But if you do, you will face consequences. There are enforcement actions that we take if you are posting illegal content, inappropriate content, if you are contacting people who don't want to be contacted and they complain about you. So these are things that we do. There's everything that can be done is more. I always describe it as, the biggest room in the world is the room for improvement. Everybody can do more, everyone can do better. But collectively, all these stakeholders coming together, I think is a great start.
Thank you. I'm going to skip and go to Jen. and give
Yeah,
you a chance
that's
and then
great.
come back to you.
Sounds good. Thank you, Dr. Bernstein, and thank you, Nicholas, for having us here today. As Dr. Bernstein said, I am Jen Hanley. I head up safety policy for North America at Facebook. And Jacqueline was talking a little bit about kind of framing this out. And what we do for any of the risks, whether it's bullying or whether it's child sexual abuse material or self-harm or all of these different issues that are out there, we take a 5-point approach to safety. That is styled around partnerships, tools, policies, resources, and feedback. So when we're talking about bullying, for example, with partnerships, it's part of why we're here today working with No Bully. We really want to learn from experts, from others in industry, from parents, from teachers, and from all of those partners out there who really are on the ground and know what's going on with these different issues and can help us identify the risks that exist. We can't be experts in everything, and that's why we turn to partners to really help guide us. That also helps inform our policies. We have strong content policies. They're available online. You can see what is and what isn't allowed on our platform, and that's what's so important when it comes to bullying for us, is to really have those in place and also to show kind of how we enforce those. We have more transparency around what we're doing with those policies. We have tools at every step of the way on the platform, so you can report abuse. You can block a user if you're having difficulty with them. You can mute if someone is saying or doing things that make you uncomfortable, but you're not ready to block them. So we put tools in place to really help teens and adults who are dealing with bullying. We have resources like our Bullying Prevention Hub. That's a great resource for people to look to when they want to learn more information about some of these risks, and even to have some of those difficult conversations for parents and kids. Maybe their kids are the ones who are bullying, and the parents want to know how to talk to them about it or how to address if their kids have been bullied, kind of where to go and what resources to turn to. And we also rely on feedback when we're dealing with risks. We know we don't always get things right. We want to hear from our community and hear from the outside experts about what else we can do to improve things. So that's just a little bit of how we frame when we're dealing with any type of risk, but bullying specifically.
Thank you. Neil?
Sure, and thank you so much for having me here today. I'm with AT&T, and our focus on risk is a little bit different. And I think Cornelius alluded to it in his opening remarks, which was the scenario you just described between men, their perception of girls having phones and having internet access, and girls actually having phones and internet access. And that gap between what adults think children and teens are doing online and what teens and children are actually doing online is really the focus of AT&T in leveraging our relationship, direct relationship with 170 million customers in North America, a third of whom have children in their households and on our accounts. And so what we're trying to determine is how to close that gap, because therein lies some risk for families, because the connection to the internet and the device often starts with our company. So if you want to get on Instagram or Facebook, you first have to have a device and a phone, and the phone and device may come as a new product into your household that you buy from AT&T, or it may be a hand-me-down from an adult in your household. Could be a grandparent or a parent. And so how do we package up resources like the Power of Zero is developing so that it can be delivered at a welcome moment when a parent needs it, and that they can put to work on their family to reduce and mitigate those risks? And so as we talk on this panel a little bit more, I'm going to explain a bit more about how we're doing it. So for us, the focus is really on that adult consumer. And for parents of children who are 0 to 7, we're talking about parents who are under 40. They're a primary consumer category in the United States. They have more disposable income than anybody. They're a major force of our business. And so how do we use our relationship, existing consumer relationships with that audience, to deliver the kind of resources that Nicholas and the team have produced here?
Thank you. Karen?
Thank you for letting me go last, because I think our approach is a bit different.
Right.
So Hasbro, as many of you know, a toy and game entertainment company for children. So we look actually at the risk, the impact it makes on the children itself. So whether it's on their self-esteem, on their school success, that's where we're trying to work to help support children and support the development of empathy and compassion, and providing those tools through our Be Fearless, Be Kind work that you mentioned to parents and to teachers, so that they can in fact teach kids empathy, that they can understand that it's a skill that needs to be developed, so that all of this work hopefully one day won't be needed, right?
Yes, hopefully. So let me thank you all for those answers, and I know you could go on, but I'm going to move over to the next side of the equation. As I retired from Sesame Street about 3 years ago, and one of the things that I have been trying to do is look to these amazing platforms and these colleagues and see how they can think about the opportunities that they may not yet have explored. But I always suggest to them that when I used to play basketball, you can't win games by just playing defense. So risks are important, and children have to be safe. But there are opportunities. So I'm going to read you a quote from Colin Green from New Era of Education. He says, "To present the internet merely as a dangerous place, to put the potential harms at the forefront of learning, would be as inappropriate as it would be ineffective. If we promote to children the dangers and potential risks in isolation from the benefits, they will do one of three things: ignore the message, be fearful and reluctant users of the internet, or actively seek out those risks as an exciting challenge." So as mentioned at the outset, when Sesame Street first began, the television medium was widely criticized. Yet we saw at Sesame the opportunity for education, for joy, for providing a window to the world, especially for those living below the poverty line, and so much more. So my second question to the panelists is, using your imagination, your moral, educational, and creative imaginations, what are your thoughts about the opportunities the online world presents for children, and three parts, what are your organizations doing about it, and what do you or your colleagues need to do more to realize the potential of the internet? This is a big question. We could spend all the time, but give me your first set of answers on this. Cornelius, we'll start with you. No, actually, you have the microphone. We'll start with you, Karen.
Well, I think back to the days when I was growing up, and it was the Encyclopedia Britannica that provided almost all the information that we had access to, and how wonderful the internet is for children to be able to access information from different places for their educational experience, for their connectedness as citizens, and for ways that we might be able to celebrate the good work that's being done. I don't think we do enough of that, particularly. I'd love to see the children that are really holding themselves up as those heroes in their communities. I'd love to see them celebrate it more. It's a simple thing, but I think when we set them up as role models, we will begin to see a shift. So it's for me, I think and for the company, it's that connectiveness as citizens and our global citizenship that the opportunity really lies.
Thank you. Neil, I'm going to go to you next.
Sure. Yeah, I think back to when I was a kid, too, and I'm a father of 3 children, a teenager and 2 younger kids, and when I was a kid, it was real one-size-fits-all. And I think what's amazing about the internet and social media and these incredible platforms we have is that there's just something for everybody. The ability to both express yourself and consume what you want, arts, culture, medium, athletics, academics. And so the opportunity is this enormous world of learning and stimulation and getting what you want that fits your personality and not having to just accept what's being given to you in this linear one-way direction that television was for me as a child. And so I see the opportunity being how to use that responsibly, safely, successfully, and helping parents understand that difference between where they experience media and what their children are experiencing today. And again, trying to close that gap, I think, is the opportunity, because that's good for business. I think that's good for all of our companies to provide more care and the kind of care that families need. And so there's an enormous opportunity both to achieve social impact and help families, but also to achieve business impact too.
Thank you. Jen?
Great. So focusing on opportunities is probably the best part of my job. You know, we're trying to minimize the safety risks, but we also get to see firsthand all of the great things that young people are doing online, and really, you know, how they're engaging creatively, how they're becoming active members of society and getting involved in things. As a company, we have a few different approaches that are helping us recognize these opportunities. And part of why we're really excited about working with Nicholas is that we do think there's a need to focus on younger kids. And so last year we launched Messenger Kids. And that's an opportunity for parents to really, guide their younger children into using social media, but it's with a very connected experience between parents and caregivers, grandparents and kids. They're kind of dipping their toes in a much more controlled environment. At the same time, if kids want to sign up for this, parents have to sign a pledge with the children that focuses on things like kindness and respect and having fun online. So we're able to teach some of these same values that we see with the Powers for Good when we're starting off that Messenger Kids experience. We're trying to help kids build empathy through the experience and using that platform. So that's one of the things that's really important to us, to focus on the opportunity, because it lets them be creative and have fun and do things in a safe way as they learn to go online. As kids get older, we also have a great thing called Community Voices, which is one of my favorite things to point people to, because we share stories of teenagers doing amazing things online, whether it's coming to someone's defense and all changing their profile pictures to support someone who was being bullied at their school, to we have a story of a teenager who learned about some special needs kids in her community who always wanted to go to the prom and never got to do that. And so she organized a prom at her high school, like a separate prom, to allow these kids to come in, and she did it all through social media. So those are the stories that I want to elevate and make sure get told. When we're focusing on the risks, we also need to think about these amazing things that young people are doing.
Thank you. Jacqueline?
I would say that the technology itself is the opportunity. So the technology itself is transformational by its very nature. I mean, all of our lives have been transformed by technology, and that's only going to continue going forward. And arming kids with the tools and the resources and the attitudes and the behaviors that they need is what's going to really inflate that opportunity that much more. So I always describe the internet as the landmark invention of our lifetime, but that's not to say that it should continue to be the Wild West, as some might still describe it. We have to bring those social norms to that space, and the kids of today are going to help make that happen. So building on what Jen said about the activities and the interconnections that she has with various youth, we just concluded an 18-month pilot program at Microsoft. We created what we call our Council for Digital Good, and it was a group of 15 teens from 12 US states that we brought together to just talk about life online, what they're doing, who they're meeting, how they're being treated, how they're treating others, and what we could do to work together to improve that. So although we concluded the program back in July, those kids are still very active in their communities and in their schools, bringing these concepts to life. Nicholas was tremendous with them back in 2017. In August, he came out to a summit that we had on campus, and we talked about bullying, we talked about online harassment, and just treating each other with more respect and dignity, which is, again, the undergirding of our campaign for digital civility. And those kinds of programs we need more of, to really harness that power that those youth have to really realize amongst all of us what is truly, I believe, the transformational power of technology.
Thank you.
It's great to go last. Let me, start from where you stopped, Jacqueline. The community is now online, right? And children create their communities online. There's a tension in Unicef, the tension against, should we strengthen protection? Should that be what UNICEF focus on? Protecting children from the predators online? Or should we promote the digital citizenship and children's lives online, right? And how they could become stronger. It's the next generation. Their lives are going to be lived online. I think we've managed, in a way, okay, to have the two moving side by side and a balance. We see two great opportunities as we listen to the voice of those children. One opportunity is their civic engagement and social inclusion. This actually, we believe it's going to contribute to breaking the cycle of poverty. We have seen actually children who are living and working on the street, how they use digital technology. We have seen children in refugee camps, how they use digital technology. We have seen migrant children, how they navigated from Iraq to Europe using digital technology and the communities that were around them, right? And how they were reaching out to each other and supporting each other using social media. So there are opportunities there. Digital technologies also bring, as it has been said, learning and education. We have seen actually how in remote crisis remote regions and humanitarian crises, what digital technology can do for children. By the way, we're working on portable education to make sure that actually children who've had a break in their education can get international certificates, but it has to be done through digital technology. In 2017, as we did the preparation for our report, The States of the World Children, we asked young people how they want to use the internet and what they think the digital world offers to them. And let me quote this. Online, my wheelchair is invisible. It brought equity and equality to this child who had cerebral palsy. With the right support and training, she could participate. She was part of the community. Nobody saw the chair, right? Nobody could question her. And she was a vibrant and active participant. There is another child, okay, Adam, who was in a refugee camp. And he showed his phone. I brought a phone. Now I know how to use the internet to do research, especially in biology, right? So it's possible. And the final thing, actually, we have to listen to these voices of these children online. It's a great opportunity to understand how children are interacting. Previously, I used to work with children living and working on the street, and I love watching child development. It's fascinating, actually, what you can learn of how children live their lives online. And so the word I take away with me is empathy. Can we get children this opportunity to move what we used to teach in schools, in clubs, after-school club, to bring it online and to be able to reach millions of children using these kind of programs?
Thank you. I like the room for more that you talked about, Jacqueline. So I'm going to ask in follow-up, what else could your platforms that you're working at or others do to take better advantage of these opportunities? And one of the things that I keep thinking about is that parents who are now newly concerned about their young children being online, there's an opportunity to provide them with information that is not just about their children's behaviors online, but their behaviors offline. So if you have any thoughts about that, I'd like to hear that before I go to the next set of questions. Anyone who wants to answer.
So it's exactly why we developed Be Fearless, Be Kind, for that very reason. The call to action is to stand up, include everyone, and make a difference. It's geared towards children. However, all the materials are really geared towards parents and teachers. And so what we're trying to do is get the message that it is a skill that needs to be developed. I don't think we can say that enough, because oftentimes parents think it's something that you're born with. You either have it or you don't. And we know, in fact, you need to keep working that so it becomes a memory muscle. So it is critically important to us, and what we have invested quite a bit of resources around. We're interested in the inclusivity piece of it, as well as helping children be able to then put it into action. So put that empathy into action and make a difference. Stand up for those that need your help. Get engaged in your community, and recognize that you have the ability to make a difference regardless of what your situation is in life.
Thank you.
So
Yep.
yeah, I could add one point about what we can do and opportunities, and this speaks to what I said in my opening remarks about leveraging our direct relationship with customers. AT&T has 5,600 retail stores all throughout the United States, thousands more of authorized retailers. We have tens of thousands of frontline employees, both the friendly people in our stores and the folks who go into people's homes to provide service in person. You can order a phone online and have it delivered to you in person. And so all of those touch points with parents who have children provide opportunity. And so in New York this year, with Nicholas's help and the help of many others, we've launched a pilot where we trained 1,100 of our retail workers in 130 stores across New York, New Jersey, to provide in-person, hands-on support to customers they identify as ones who have children at home using mobile devices and online media. What we're testing for, and I think we've heard a lot about listening to customers and listening to children, is we're listening to our frontline retailers, and we're testing for how we can package that information to provide it at the right moment. How is it welcome into that sales and care moment where someone's coming in for support and to buy? And to understand how we can use that learning and spread it across all these different interactions in people's homes where there may be children right there at the kitchen table who are using a device as we have someone installing DirecTV on their television at home. And so right there is an opportunity to provide some dosage of help. I think with the expertise that we have here in this room and as part of the Power of Zero, we've got the content. I think the question is, what's the package, what's the channel? And our company has made a commitment here in New York to figure that out, and as we're expanding into additional big metro markets this year, we're gonna really put this question to the test.
Thank you. I just want to follow up comment, and then I'll turn to my colleagues. When I was at Sesame Workshop for so many years, we learned that there were many opportunities to drip irrigate good content in the pediatrician's office, in laundromats, teaching literacy when children are watching the machine go round and round. You have a chance to actually do some reading. With women who have just given birth, to provide them with information beforehand and afterwards, using their cell phones to provide what drips of technology induced information that they can have. So I think the idea of how do you deliver, what you deliver, where you deliver is going to continue to be important, especially if each of us believes in trying to change the world little by little. We have to do everything we can wherever we can. So any other comments? Yes.
If I may, Louis. So I loved Cornelius's, it's not a campaign, it's a communication initiative. And I would say we don't have a campaign for digital civility. We hopefully have a movement, and we're trying to build a human platform. But one piece of information, one statistic that came out of our most recent research, which we just released on International Safer Internet Day, which was February the 5th, had 2 data points. Now more than ever, teens across the globe are asking and seeking out help from parents and other trusted adults for help with online issues. So it was 42% of those teens, and we surveyed more than 11,000 people across the globe, half of them being teens. So of those who said that they had been exposed to some online risk, 42% of them said that they reached out to a parent, and 28% said that they reached out to some other trusted adult, like a coach or a counselor or a member of the clergy, for help with online issues. So that right there should say to us, now last year it was maybe 10%, maybe 9%. It was very, very low numbers by comparison. Those stats right there should tell us that we have an opportunity. So for parents and for trusted adults, it should be familiarize yourself with what kids are doing online. Be open to those conversations. Be welcoming of those conversations, and be willing to give advice. Maybe they've got the technology down and they're super intelligent, but the adults have the wisdom. They can recognize risk and they can impart knowledge about that risk. And then sort of be open to solving the problem together. You know, listen, focus on listening, suspending judgment, and so forth. And for teens, the message is equally clear. Go and seek help from a trusted adult or a parent, because odds are your classmates and your friends are probably doing the same thing.
Any other comments?
And just really quickly to add on to what Cornelius and Jacqueline were saying, I loved Cornelius's examples. Those, again, are positive stories of how teens and others are engaging in these opportunities. And I think part of what's really great here is that we're not just focused on saying to young kids, don't do these things. Instead, we're focused on action words and how to kind of be powerful and engaged citizens at whatever age they are, and the importance of getting parents to have these conversations, getting educators to help empower the kids to be doing these good things online and offline from a really young age is important.
Can I just mention, though it may be boring, but the care workers, the teachers, anybody who's involved in engaging with children, we need to build into the training curriculum or whatever learning platform they have to understand how to engage with children and how to support children, and even using some of these materials. Remember, these are the people who are going to be with these kids for a long time.
Thank you. I want to make one suggestion. One of the things we learned at Sesame Street was when we were working with creative writers who were not educators, we would bring in experts and to talk about a particular topic. So for example, we talked about sibling rivalry, and we had a psychiatrist come in and provide suggestions for our writers of what to think about. And one of our writers came up to me and wrote this amazing song for Buffy St. Marie, which we then used years later for Baby Bear. And I won't sing it to you, although I could. I'll spare you. Where the language was the language to give to a parent. So when a older sibling sees the young child getting all of the attention, the parent could say, what this wonderful writer wrote, I love him because he's tiny and small. I love you because you're yellow and tall. Tiny and small love, yellow and tall love. People love through all their days, different people in different ways. And providing some of the caregivers and teachers the language, the short language that a parent can use, any parent, even a really well-educated parent, is often at a total loss at a moment of bullying or at a moment. So think about those opportunities and think about how you can deal with it. Just 2 more questions, then we'll turn it to the audience. So I care a great deal about the potential for good. So I'm going to quote John Merrow, who worked at PBS NewsHour and is now at the Carnegie Foundation for the Advancement of Teaching out at Stanford. He said, quote, being a digital native is not the same as being a digital citizen. Young people have always needed ethical guidance and the security of rules and boundaries. In Western society in general, there seems to be a drifting away from the teaching of values. At the same time, we've often heard the arguments that tech platforms are content agnostic. Yet, as Denis Mukwege, Nobel Peace Laureate, said, silence is an enemy of the good and an enabler of evil. So my question, the third question is, do you and your organizations feel a responsibility for promoting the potential for good that the internet can provide to teach values and not to remain agnostic about them? And if you do feel that, I can't believe you deny it here in front of everybody, how can you and we do more to make that happen? We'll start with Neil.
Sure. Yeah, I mean, some of the advice that you can get in our stores include how to raise a reader, how to engage technology together. So we're encouraging behaviors that are not just online but offline, and that's part of what we're training our retail workers to do, because I think we recognize from the research that we've done and the polling of parents and teenagers that there's a really very high level of concern about excessive use of technology as well as inappropriate use. And so I think as parents ourselves at AT&T, right, grandparents, and I have 3 kids, I think we're all concerned and can understand that there's a need for something that's not technological. That's part of the anecdote, and that's why our company is focusing on the in-person contact, the face-to-face contact between a parent, a caregiver, a retail worker, and a frontline worker. That the solution, while there are resources on a website, the solution is often just some face-to-face empathy and some conversation with someone who understands what you're going through.
Thank you. Jen?
Yep. So we have 2 ways right now that we're really focused on taking this responsibility seriously, because we do feel that we have a responsibility to have a safe environment on our platform and to help kids and teens build these important skills. So 1, we have a digital literacy library. This is something new we launched in the fall. It is to provide educators specifically with lesson plans and those words and learning experiences to help young people learn how to critically engage, learn how to have a positive online experience. So that's something that I think is really important that we're putting out there. It's available worldwide in more than 40 languages right now, and we're continuing to add to that curriculum all of the time because it's so important for us to carry out this responsibility and to provide this for people to help inform young users. We also are involved with the PTA on digital family community events, and this is another way to engage and to inform and empower parents. We're putting on 200 events with the PTA across the country right now to focus on so many of these skills and also how to prevent bullying and how to help your child with their digital reputation and deal with so many of these issues. It's a way for us to connect and engage with parents. And I think those are just 2 of the ways that we're really, as a platform and as a company, taking this responsibility and trying to put great stuff out there into the world to help prevent some of these issues.
Thank you. Karen?
So it's our largest philanthropic initiative. We're putting a lot of resources behind this. For everything that is on that wheel behind us is the reason why we have been supporting first No Bully, but now the Power of Zero. We also support other organizations that are helping to get the word out to children, like World's Largest Lesson, that is helping children learn about the Sustainable Development Goals and what they can do to act against the goals, to be part of making 2030 a reality. We know, and a little bit to the question before, we know that parents are most interested in raising good people. more so than having the best math scores. Children, however, think that parents are more interested in having them bring home good math skills or good math scores or spelling. So I think we're at a ripe opportunity right now where parents are thirsty for this information, where the combination of the power here and other places that we can begin to make, hopefully, a dent in raising good citizens.
Yeah, it's so funny when you're saying this. I'm thinking of what my wife told me my father-in-law used to say to her when she brought home a report card. She is still very smart, and she got A's in so many things, but she got a C in conduct. And he said, I'm not interested in how smart you are. I'm interested in your behavior. Now, how few of us save our highest praise for conduct, one of your C's, and values? That's an interesting challenge. Jacqueline.
A couple of things. So in terms of resources and materials for parents, for educators, for other adults, that's all on our website. We've got everything from how to identify misinformation and hate speech and sexting and bullying and harassment, you name it, it's all there. Microsoft.com, little commercial, /saferonline. And for our website for digital civility, Microsoft.com /digital civility. To your specific point, Louis, about values, we're trying to bring that forth with this campaign for digital civility. We've also launched what we call our Digital Civility Challenge. It might sound old-fashioned, it might sound kind of trite, but it's really core, and it is resonating with the youth that I mentioned. So it just has 4 basic principles for life online, and that's what we're asking everyone to pledge to. And that is respect differences, pause before replying, treat others as you would like to be treated, and if it's safe and prudent to do so, stand up for yourself and for others online. So those are just 4 things. That's not everything one needs to do online, but it's, I believe, a healthy start. So everyone can go online, take that pledge, tell us on social media that you're agreeing to live by those 4 basic tenets.
Thank you. Cornelius.
It's interesting, Jackie, that there is actually this kind of discussion that values old-fashioned, right? But I believe actually one thing, we're here today because we all believe in values. I work in this organization because I believe in values. And the voices of the children that we listen to, I believe they believe in values. We've listened to the voices of children. We regularly do these polls and feedback from children around Safe Internet Day or the End Violence in School. We did recently, there was a children's manifesto, that actually a youth manifesto that was done by children in South Africa. And the 2 values they would like to promote are respect and kindness, right? And you know, when children says respect, they say it in a different way with a bomb fist, okay? How do we transfer that respect that they are talking about, okay? They believe in respect onto the internet and kindness. So both their offline and their online world come together. And for this, actually, we believe that, again, as you have said, Jackie, we have to pause, teach children to pause before the post, before the click, right? The like or dislike. They forget, you know, that it's also part of their world. Imagine the situation. Children are still evolving in their ability to make logical decisions. And we must actually teach them to value respect, kindness, empathy, tolerance, and build it into their DNA, right? So in their online interaction, it's part of their lives. One of the things actually, again, we would like to see, and children bring home information to their parents. They interact. And we feel that if we target the schools in most countries, right, the children may take home the information and the parents may bring the information into the schools. So for us, again, the voices of children are saying respect and kindness, and we believe if we work with the schools, actually, we can be able to bring this.
Thank you. Lightning round. Last before I turn it over to the audience. You've got 30 seconds to 1 minute to answer the following question. What one thing would you suggest, and you have to name who you're suggesting it to either the head of your company, to a platform, to a media producer, to an educator, to a parent or to a child, so name who you're directing this to best take advantage of the opportunities that the digital world can provide to our world's youth? And we're going to start with Jennifer at the end. I fooled you.
I think my one piece of advice would probably be for a media producer or journalists, and it's listen to young people. Don't just make assumptions about them, but make sure that you're engaging and learning about what they're doing. We see a lot of negative headlines. We see a lot of concerns about things that are happening online, but there's so many great stories that I just think need to be told and need to be shared. And stories around kindness and creativity and all of these really good ways of engaging socially. And I think that my advice would be focus on those a little bit and let's elevate them and make them the headline.
Thank you. Neil.
Well, this is an interesting question. I think the recommendation or the advice that I would have is for companies who have a direct relationship with parents to use those to deliver the support that their children need.
Karen.
I like both those answers. So you have a pledge, you have a manifesto, you have a pledge, we have a pledge, you have a pledge. So, Nicholas, I think Power of Zero needs a pledge. It needs to have the voices of children involved in that pledge. But I think there's a way to pull all of this together to make a lot more noise so that we can really be sure that we're keeping children safe and empowering them.
Thank you.
Mine would be to parents, along the lines of what I said before, but not to feel intimidated by the technology, not to feel intimidated by the intelligence of the youth, but to take stock in parents and teachers and other trusted adults' own wisdom and guidance, and know that you can help them plot a way forward together in a non-judgmental and really collaborative way.
Thank you.
Mine would be to the educators, right, to see how we can use these materials and build it into the curriculum. I know what the educators say. We're already busy. We only have so many hours a day, okay? But it's not to create a subject like how to learn to live on a digital world. It's how do you, as you work with children who are using digital tools, use this as an opportunity to get them to know how to behave in the digital world in a civil and respectful way.
I want to thank all our panelists. Please clap for them. They were terrific. And now, do we have some time for some questions from the audience? So if you have any questions, please tell us who you would like to address. Raise your hands and we'll be happy to pass my mic. Don't be shy. There's a question back there. I can walk. I can bring this to you. Oh, you have one. Okay, thank you so much.
There you go. Hi, thank you to all the panelists. Francisco Quesney from the SRSG Office on Violence Against Children. More than a question is two comments. Number one, and this goes to the private sector, it tends to always end up focusing in the US, North America, Europe. UNICEF doesn't worry me, the UN doesn't worry me. Most of humankind does not live in the North, and I think you should keep that in mind because I think there's a natural tendency for AT&T, for Facebook, et cetera, to think about the US or Europe. And the other thing is that a point that Neil made, which is perception versus reality, and I think that children already have the answers that we're looking for. Therefore, it's not a matter of just interpreting what they are doing or saying, but it's finding out how can you address the issues that they are confronting because we as adults do not know it. And I think that sooner we learn that and accept it, the better we're going to be able to address the issues. Thank you.
Thank you. Comments are okay, but questions are what I'm looking for. One more. Okay, we've got one more.
Paul Pruitt, Chairman of the Board of the Nobuli and a lifelong early childhood educator. So thank you for the effort that you have all been involved in bringing this important issue to the forefront, providing structure to it. Clearly your organization have reach and resources that I think are tapped and you are engaged in, and the potential, by hearing what I heard today from you all, the potential is great that we can make an impact here. We at No Bully have made a tremendous impacts in school-based programs, and we feel we have a lot of experience, and we know also that has been researched to be very effective. What can No Bully specifically do? Clearly, we've been a member of your steering committee and the organization that's prompted to come where we are today. But what can we do as an organization to help you or help the cause that you haven't maybe already mentioned?
Anybody want to go first?
Well, Paul, I can speak to how No Bully has already helped us, and that is at AT&T. Over the past several years, we've done a lot of research and direct engagement of teenagers and parents, and through community organizing as well as through research. And Nicholas was a key contributor to a survey that we conducted nationally of teenagers, parents, and parents of young children, and compare and contrast some of what the learnings that I described here that really surfaced this gap in perception and reality between young people and their parents. We're bringing that research to 6 additional metro markets. This year we're going to do 6 more surveys. So what No Bully has done for AT&T is provided us with framework, vocabulary for how to talk about these sensitive and important subjects with young people, as well as their parents. And so I think subject expertise is very important. So while AT&T is an expert on consumer engagement, retail sales, care, a whole variety of customer and parental engagement issues that relate to the services and the products that we're talking about here. The gap that we need is that subject expertise and that frontline knowledge and understanding. So that's something that you have done, so thank you.
Thank you for the great question. I'm going to talk about it just for a second from what we have seen with the work on the ground that you have been doing in our school districts. So in Rhode Island, where our headquarters are located, we have brought the No Bully model into some of our more difficult districts, I would say. And the results have been profound. And so spreading that faster, making it available to more children because you have the answer, I think that is probably a challenge you're working on every day. I think also maybe helping us make it more available to our employees who have children might be interesting as well. So much of, we're all able to do this work because of the good work of our employees, right? They're the ones working every day to make these resources available. It would be awfully nice to be able to feed back to them. Certainly we will feed back this, but I think your model as well is so important. And if you have not been exposed to it, I suggest you take a bit of time and look at it. It has reduced bullying by 90%, changed school cultures dramatically. So for that, we'll be always grateful.
Jacqueline?
Just quickly, what I love about this campaign is that it really brings together so many collaborators and so many stakeholders behind one particular message. You know, as Karen said, they have a manifesto, we have a pledge, they have a pledge, everybody's got something. And I think the more we can work together toward a specific something, the better chance we have of really breaking through all the noise. All of the stakeholders on the table, at the table here, are really being bombarded by messages and so forth. We have to find a way to break through with something significant. I love this wheel. There's so many pieces of it that are what we're behind as well. We're behind all of them, but specific to our campaign, there's so many that underlie what's on that wheel already. And I just think we have to continue to work together to come up with creative and innovative ways of breaking through all the noise that's out there and all the bombardment of information that people receive on a daily basis so that we can just get a little bit of that brain power, a little bit of that appreciation and headspace to be able to take this in. And I think we have to continue to collaborate and work together to figure out how to do that.
With that, I thank the panelists and thank you, Nicholas, for inviting us. Take care.